All right, everybody, we are live. This is episode 24 of the Producers Hangout live show and podcast. And I am Flux of fluxwithit.com, producer, sound designer, all around synth nerd, and guy who has his Facebook bumping constantly while I'm trying to talk. So, with us today, we've got William McKnight. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm William McKnight, 1GK from themachinewarehouse.com. How y'all doing? I like that.
And we've got Roy. Hey, Roy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry, man. I just got feedback down here. Yeah, I'm Roy, aka Join, hip hop producer, veteran in the game. I'm a synth nut, just like Ken. Unfortunately, I can't afford him.
Okay, and then we've got Silent Cipha, Mike from padbangers.com out in Germany.
What's up, guys? I'm just the German token guy to make this show look like it's very international.
I'm over in London, so it's all good, mate. We've got 2 Americans and 2 Europeans, so it's evenly balanced.
Yeah, right.
All right, so here's the deal. We're doing a show that's not on Sunday, so this is unusual for us, but that's okay because we can do these kinds of things because we're basically musicians and we're not reliable, right? So we're going to talk about NAMM and everything that goes along with it. So we're going to jump right into what products kind of had our ears burning a little bit at NAMM. We've got a couple of different lists that we're going to go off of. I'm going to let Mike actually start it off and lay out the first piece of gear that we're going to talk about.
Should we go through the list or just start random things that I liked at NAMM?
Well, why don't you start with that first thing that's at the top of the list, and then we'll decide after that, because that thing I do want to talk about.
Alright, so the first thing on the list is the Vermona 14 monophonic analog synthesizer.
Now that thing looks amazing. I'm going to see if I can pull it up real quick on a screen and we can do a screen share of it. Basically, for me, it was kind of surprising when I saw that everyone was talking about the sequential circuits or sequential Prophet 6, and everybody was going gaga about it, and rightfully so. I'm very excited about that too. But to me, just the sheer look of the Vermona had me just jaw dropped and kind of freaking out a little bit. Like, okay, how am I gonna get this thing? I need this thing in my possession as fast as possible. The Vermona stuff, I mean, for a long time has sounded fantastic, and this just looks like a piece that is likely going to go down in history as one of the better mono synths. So, what are your things? What are your thoughts on this, Mike?
I think
did it surprise you?
I think it looks really good. I like Vermona a lot. I think they do great products, and I'm looking forward to it.
Now, did we see a price point on this one? Because I didn't see the price point.
1,300 euros, so I guess it's about $1,500.
Yeah, probably about somewhere between $1,500 and $1,800, which, in my opinion, is not bad at all. I mean, you look at that thing, and that's, somebody needs to give that to me.
And beauty. The product design is just top notch here.
Yeah, it looks like it's built really solidly. Lots of chunky knobs on it. Let me do a quick screen share so I can show everybody what this thing looks like. The people listening to the audio are just going to have to bear with us for a second. So this guy over here we go. I'm going to make this thing a little bit bigger on the screen. There we go. And I got to say, I really like the build. Looks fantastic with the wood ends, and you've got the chunky metal on it, and it stays in line with the classic Vermona aesthetic. I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't seen how deep the modulation will actually go, But the filter looks really unique, being that it's going to be 12, 16, and 24 dB. 16 seems really odd. I wasn't sure if that was a misprint or if that was the actual filter that's on there, because you would think it would be, you know, like a 12, 18, and 24 as opposed to 16 dB. But I'm really interested to hear that that sucker oscillate and, you know, kind of do its thing, because their filters are really great. So I very much want to see that. Any thoughts on that, Willie? You looking to add another synth to your collection?
Come on.
That would be nice. Ooh, bit pricey.
Always
But, it looks pretty cool, but I've got my eyes set on something else, something a bit more versatile, I would say.
Yeah, I think I think at that price point, you know, it's. I mean, for a very specific quality piece of gear, I think at that price point, that's pretty interesting. I also haven't seen, and I was looking around trying to find information on it, but I haven't seen whether the knobs are digitally controlled or 100% analog, because if they are digitally controlled knobs, that'd be a hell of a MIDI controller too. You know, in the same way that the Sub 37 is a hell of a MIDI controller. So I could see that being really useful in that realm.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah.
Was there any other synths that really stuck out to you more important than the Ramona 14?
The Prophet 6.
Was that?
Jump right to the Prophet, huh? Now
you
the Prophet.
asked for it, man. You asked for it.
Yeah, the Prophet. What I really like about this is that you're dealing with a situation where now Dave Smith has multiple poly analog synths, and this one, they all kind of straddle this interesting line between each other in coming at different approaches in interesting ways. So, you know, you can look at the Pro 12, the, you know, sort of the Pro 2, you know, that's not a traditional poly, but at the same time, you know, it's there. The Prophet 08 and the X4, but then you get this guy and you get all analog oscillators with it. Filters are all new. You know, it's got the step sequencer on there, I believe, as well. And oh, good Lord! And the look of it with the sequential name, I mean, really impressive looking. And I believe it does have the digital effects as well, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really. It makes it hard for me to choose between which one I would want out of those. Now, Willie, you have the X4 right behind you, and I know you've had quite a few Dave Smith synthesizers. What's your thoughts on the Prophet 6?
Buy it. Real simple. It's on the list. It's got to be on the list.
Does it move? Does it move your point on the list of the Pro 2?
No.
I know you're very interested in the Pro 2, and I know you have the Prophet 12 desktop right in front of you, and you've got the X4 to your side. You're considering getting the Pro 2. Was the main reason of looking at the Pro 2 for the CV, or was it the different filters, or what?
Nah, it's the CV. It's mostly the control. It's like if you need a main controller for your studio and you want it to be a synth, the Pro 2 right now just stands out above everything else for it.
Yeah.
Because you can control. I'm gonna say it. Unfortunately, you can control software, and you can also control CV, MIDI, to all the rest of my hardware. So I'm looking at this laboratory right here, and it's all. The Pro 2 is gonna sit right here. I've already got it laid out. So the moment it arrives, it'll be right here. I'm gonna hook it up to this Sub 37, and I'm gonna create some sounds ain't nobody heard yet.
Nice. Now I gotta
Very nice.
I gotta say that for me, it makes me really like it as a consumer who I'm running out of space as it is. um, I'm really struggling to decide between which of Dave Smith's synths that I want, because I don't have a Dave Smith synth in here right now. I do kind of want a sequential circuit 6-track, but I'm looking at his newer stuff that I also really want, and at some point I have to start asking myself, is his product starting to cannibalize his other products? Like, do you think that he's starting to having it like eat itself, and then you're dealing with a situation where, okay, well, I would have bought this, now I'm buying that, and I don't know. I feel like he's coming out with an awesome synth like every year, and I can't keep up. Roy, are you in the market for any of these poly analogs or?
Yeah, the thing I really like about Dave's instrument is even the Pro 2. I mean, you can't get no two Pro 2 sounding the same, and I don't know how he does it. These things have their own character. They have, the moment you spend time with it, they've got their own feel. They're beasts in their own. So I can see where you're going with the idea that, yeah, because he's releasing so much so much better products every year, that, yeah, maybe he might get to knock off some of the older stuff. But I don't think it will come to that, because if you spend time with any Dave Smith instrument, you kind of like build a special relationship with them, and they just sound unique, you know. So for me, I will be looking at the Pro 2, but the synth that really caught my eye for NAMM this year is the Modulus. I don't know what kind of wizardry they did with that thing, but it just for me, it just took the cake for
How do you feel about that price point?
Yeah, that's just put it out for yeah, extremely successful musicians out there, but the price point is pretty steep.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. That's the killer. The price point is the killer.
Sure. Do you think that you would be? Are you interested in the internet aspect of the Modulus O2? So for people who don't know, the Modulus O2 is coming in somewhere. You know, I'm not 100% specific, but I want to say somewhere in the $5,000 range.
Yeah.
But it also has some really unique aspects of it. It's a polysynth with digital oscillators, analog filters, and has internet capabilities to share patches and to you know, yeah, that's some really interesting stuff, to where people can collaborate across you know, from studio to studio with it. I'm
share your patches. Yeah,
and it's gorgeous. It's the the build quality on it looks fantastic. I'm just hoping that a lot of that cost is more R&D type costs, and they're going to distill that down.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Why are they so?
Product.
Yeah, they're a bit pricey there, but yeah, you probably might be right that probably they boil it down to, you know, they've crammed an awful lot, and getting all those different parts of that synth talking to each other to come up with something unique. Then they're not expecting probably to sell bucket loads of it, so in low volumes they need to recoup some of the R&D cost. But it is really, really nice. Yeah, I like the idea of it and the way it sounds, and all the demo that they've done across NAMM. I followed all those through over the internet, and yeah, that's one of my desert island synth. Probably about 10 years time, I'll probably might be able to find one on eBay. Hopefully not twice the price of voice going for now, because it'll be so rare.
So what I'll do here is I'll share. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'll show you the next synth, because talking about the Modulus, I want to bring up the polar opposite here. So the new Roland JD-Xi with its mini keys, which I know a lot of people you know, can't stand mini keys, but they did also show the XA, which is their flagship version of the same basic architecture, which I believe they're going to be showing at Music Messa. So Mike, that's where you come in, and you're going to have to really get some hands on that one. But you know, analog synth and digital synth in one, 4-voice polyphony on the analog section, I believe, or is that mono on the analog? Anyone?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not sure
so
about.
yeah, I believe it's actually four voice on just the digital, and then
Yeah,
the
it's just digital. The analog is mono.
yeah, the analog is mono. But from what I've been gathering from everybody that I've talked to, and I sent, I had a few people head out into NAMM, and and everybody that I've heard from has told me that you cannot layer them at the same time, the analog oscillator and the digital oscillator at the same time. So that to me feels like a little bit of a misstep. But you know, it's interesting to see that Roland is finally kind of moving into back towards analog, which they've blatantly ignored for a while. Um, I'm interested in it. I think it looks ugly as hell though. I don't like how it looks at all. But this to me is kind of like in that micro Korg, mini Nova, in that kind of realm. And I think if you look at those competitors, it kind of blows most of that stuff out of the water. So I'm really anxious to see just how deep the modulation will allow you to go. And, because that's one of the things about the Mini Nova and the Ultra Nova that I really liked, is that you can really get some interesting modulations out of it. Whereas, I have a microcord around here somewhere that it never really impressed me. Like it was decent. It was a workhorse, for if you needed a small thing to bring with you, but it never really made me super happy. And the XL version of it really didn't. So it's nice to see small things in this ilk that are, really usable. But I think a lot of people were really looking for at least a four voice analog poly from them. Mike, what's your thoughts on the XI?
I listened to the demos, and to be honest, I was not very impressed. I hope that the JXDA will be a little bit more exciting. It sounded okay, but I was not super excited about it.
Yeah, I
So,
haven't heard any demos that made me sit up and take notice, but at the same time, I don't place a lot on those demos like until I can get it in a quiet room and hear it myself, or at
true.
very least have headphones on. Willie, you thinking about selling the Gaia for it?
Yep. I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you, I was when it was first announced and we did a show about it. I was excited, didn't care about the mini keys at all. But after seeing it at NAMM and looking at some of the demos and listening to some of them, I'm sort of disappointed. I just think they probably could have did better, and I'm hoping
Really?
that the XA is better than the XI, because right now I'm not interested. It doesn't make me want to part with any money that I have allotted to other sims. So
Hmm.
it quite frankly, it just I have the system one right here in front of me, the Gaia, and it's like the XI is no, I wouldn't part money.
I think when I look at it, the biggest issue for me is like I just look at it and like I said, and like it might be harsh or superficial, but to me I do feel an instrument should be aesthetically pleasing. And I look at that thing and it looks like hot vomit. Like it looks plasticky. I don't like the color. And which is, at the same time, I know a lot of people hated how the Aria had the green, and as everybody knows, I love green. So, like, I love that. So, while I might hate the color, I'm sure there's people out there that are, in love with it. I still think that they should have RGB LEDs and all of those things. They don't cost that much, and just let you have a, scroll through and decide what color you want your synth if they're going that plastic of a route. But I mean, I look at that stuff and I'm like, yeah, I would rather spend money towards, um, something a little bit more, possibly a little bit more pricey, but the build quality could be a little bit nicer too. Let me spend it so that when I'm tapping on the sides of it, it doesn't feel completely hollow. That's one of the things that I love about like the Moog Sub Fatty, is just how solid it feels when you grab onto it. Like it's chunky. You know, even honestly, even the Arturia, like, you know, people can say what they want about the build quality on those things, but you know, it still feels better than, you know, something like those cheap plastic synths to me. So I don't know. I'll check it out, I'm sure, and it'll be, to me, that's like one of those products that I'll be looking at when I find one used really cheap, and I'm just like, why not, you know? But didn't excite me. What's
So,
next on the list for you, Mike?
next would be something you want to talk about, but I don't want to talk about. It's the Akai Timberwolf.
Oh,
That's an interesting product.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, but it's not.
here's my thing. Here's my thing. Okay, so I was not at all. I was impressed by the idea of the Rhythm Wolf, but when I actually laid hands on it and listened to it, I was not at all happy. I felt the filter was poorly designed. I felt the sound of it as a whole, I was just not happy with. And I'm one of those guys who loves to find things that sound bad and use them because they sound bad. But I feel like it's almost like it's like a bad movie that's not trying to be a bad movie versus a bad movie that's trying to be a bad movie. There's a difference, you know what I mean? Like, one is like endearing and the other one is just bad, you know? And I felt kind of that way when I really started playing with the Rhythm Wolf. Like, there were certain things that just weren't musical about it, like the way the distortion circuit worked, the way that the filter worked, you know, the drum sound as a whole just didn't grab me. So the Timberwolf, I saw it and I'm like, 4-voice polyphonic synthesizer. That sounds fantastic. I just really am hoping that the voicing is good, because the voicing in the filter has to be better than what they did with the Rhythm Wolf, because, you know, just about anybody can design an analog circuit, but can you voice an analog circuit? That's a whole nother, you know, that's a whole nother idea. And there's a difference between something, you know, just because something's analog does not mean it's good. You know, and that's right. People need to get that through their head, is that, you know, just because, you know, the whole signal path is analog. Well, the signal path might be analog, but if you've got crappy op amps in there and the VCA is noisy, then who cares, you know? Give me a good digital over a bad analog any day, you know?
I know I heard him say, I could be wrong, but I know I heard that guy say that it is the same voicing from the Rhythm Wolf. Like, well, the same bass synth. It's just 4 of them in an analog synth.
If they do that, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot, because not to be I don't want to be overly harsh. I'm trying to be nice about it, but I will say this: if they are doing that and it's just that, I'm not interested. And, you know, aside from getting it really cheap, like if I get one for $100, I'm gonna crack that sucker open and I'm gonna modify the heck out of it. But with that being said, I mean, honestly, the Rhythm Wolf has not exactly been getting a glowing reputation as it is. So I think if they do that and they use that as a tagline for it, I feel like that's probably a mistake. And even I was watching some of the interview videos where they had Dan from Akai talking about it, and, you know, I think he's a nice guy and all, but when he's demoing it, he says some people, you know, he kind of touched on the fact that a lot of people really did not like the sound of the Rhythm Wolf, and he said, oh, some people really, really hated it, and some people liked it. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but for the most part, that's what he said. And I'm like, well, if that's how people were feeling, it's like, maybe you should take a second look at the design a little bit. You know, maybe there's some things that need to be tweaked. And listen, just because it's the same structure doesn't mean they can't tweak certain things to voice it a little bit better. So it could be minor tweaks involved just to make that thing kind of get to where it needs to be, which could be nice. I'm also really not feeling the design layout of it, especially for the price point that they're at. Mike, what do you feel about that?
I think it looks like a toy. Really,
a toy?
It looks like a kid's toy to me.
Yeah, I don't, and so we have what, a pitch wheel but no mod wheel. That's kind of concerning. And I'll throw up a let's go ahead and throw up a screenshot of this. Where are we at? Yeah. So I feel like I want to like what they're doing. I want to like, you know, all these new synths that are coming out. But when I see this, it doesn't make me jump up and down because I believe the price point was like $400, right?
$499.
$499?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be wasting $499. You know, I'll waste seriously. I'll waste $150, no problem. But you know, on something that, you know, I'm gonna crack open and toy with just to see if I can make it sound different. But no, that kind of price point is where I start getting into things of, you know, looking at other things that I would rather do. You know, so that's a miss for me. Roy, you gonna add that to your setup?
No, 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 no. I think the way I view it, I think probably the same opinion shared by most people that I've spoken to about it. Yeah, for the price point that is at, there are other products out there that would offer you a lot more and a lot better, you know, than what the Rhythm Wolf will do. So no, it's not what. Yeah, I'll probably pick it up for cheap when when it falls, you know, when you go by and other stuff comes out, and then you probably find a lot of them floating around, and then yeah, you can pick one up. But no, it's not something that's I've got high up on my list. No.
And how do you
If
guys
it's
feel?
quirky, then yeah, but not in a good way.
So they also announced the Tomcat. Did that inspire any confidence in you? I mean, did this get you going at all?
No, no, not for me. No, not
Here's
for
what
me. The
I'll say
rhythm.
about it. I will say this. I actually like the 909 sound more than I like the 808 sound as a whole, and
Okay.
this sounds closer to that style. I'm not a fan of analog tom drums, so I don't know why they felt it was necessary to put four pitched, you know, chromatically pitched analog toms on there like that. No, thank you. Um, I mean, unless you're trying to do like like Phil Collins 80s type work or something. I don't know. That's not working for me. But again, it gets back to that price point, and it gets back to whether or not they change the voicing at all. If I can get this and a Rhythm Wolf for like $100 at a flea market, then I'm gonna modify them and I'm gonna use them. But it didn't really make me super happy. What I did find interesting and what a lot of people seem to be really you know, talking about was the new controller keyboards from Akai. The what is it? The Advance.
Advanced, yes.
So there's a lot of people really excited about it, and in my opinion, I have kind of two different thoughts about it. I'm excited for it in one side because it kind of reminds me of the Panorama P6. So in a way, it reminds me of that. I really like the idea that they're pulling, you know, the functionality seems very similar to Native Instruments Core that they discontinued,
Yep.
which a lot of people really loved Core, myself included. A lot of people are trying to compare this to the Native Instruments Complete Control, and yeah, there's a Core. Mike's got one. I don't see it so much as a direct competitor to Complete Control because I felt like Complete Control missed out on a lot of functionality that they should have had in it. However, I also feel like this Akai Advance 49 is missing out on a lot of functionality that it should have had with it. The idea that you had this beautiful screen on the left-hand side and no scribble strips is a complete fail for me. When I'm looking for a MIDI controller, I do not want to have to be looking to the left to figure out what knob is what, I want instant scribble strips right on my knobs that tell me exactly what my knobs are. Complete Control did it, but unfortunately, it doesn't work with everything. You know, they have that limited software along with it. This has a more open software, but it has a more limited controller setup in that way. So that kind of really disappoints me. I have no confidence or care about the pads whatsoever. Like, they don't factor in my mindset even slightly. So the pads mean nothing to me. I would have rather them be like click buttons or something, or another row of encoders, to be honest with you.
There's enough space to fit at least one touch strip to it. That would be a nice addition too.
Yeah, you could run a touch strip right underneath of where those pads are, you know.
Here, or next to the monitor.
Or even a scribble. You could have had a scribble strip right there, you know, like whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, the color screen adds very little functionality over top of an LCD, like a LED screen, right? It doesn't really add a lot to it aside from looking pretty, like functionality-wise. So instead of spending the money on that, I would have much rather had scribble strips. And give me, you know, the software looks good. Give me that same, let me be able to layer up all my synths, let me be able to pull everything in. But don't you dare make me have to look over at a screen to the left, because I don't see much of an advantage of that screen being there to something like those terrible-looking M-Audio Air controllers, which, in my opinion, are some of the ugliest controllers I've ever seen. It's, you know, the functionality just, that doesn't do anything for me. So, Roy, are you in the market for any new keyboard controllers?
No, I got my Panorama P6 about 3 months ago, and I still.
Oh, you did get a Panorama.
Yeah, I do have a Panorama P6. Yeah.
And how are you liking it?
Oh yeah, I think they answer all the questions I've been looking for with the in-depth integration, and we had a session where we used the Panorama and we didn't have to touch the mouse once, which was for us was like, yeah, and especially simple things like you record press play using the transport.
Sure.
Press play, record, stop. Sorry, made an error. Bam, undo, gone. Sync back to start. That was just the workflow. Just those functions. Just do it for me. And that's just like simple basic stuff. But when you in that vibe, you're in that zone, and when you've got it going, it really integrates with Reason, and that's the main reason why I got into Reason and sound design. And then it also integrates with Logic, which I also use. I haven't tried it with Mixed Boss yet, but it integrates with Logic and Reason really, really well. And not to take my eyes off the keyboard. So it more or less come like a workstation that integrates with your DAW. I'm really pleased with it. The function I can see on Akai, I don't know.
Well, that
I don't know how well.
To, what is it? The Korg just released the Korg Tactile, which is kind of in that same ilk. And then also along with that, you have the sort of similar the Arturia Keylab, which I have right in front of me. That's what I'm using these days, is the Arturia Keylab 49, which I'm actually really liking. Again, we get back to screen is to the left, which that I don't, you know, I really would rather have scribble strips. I used to have the Novation Remote SL and the Ultranova. Those two were my main controller keyboards, and they both had scribble strips for knobs, which I loved. But of course, the fact that they want to force you to use AutoMap is what I didn't like, because I don't really. I really like the fact that I've got all these faders. Like the amount of controls on here versus the amount of controls on both the Complete Control and the Akai Advanced 49 make me want to fight somebody. Like, don't give me less controls for a pretty screen. Give me more controls. You know what I mean? And make the screen usable. So just give me the information that I need to know. You don't need to have cartoon pictures of what I need to know. You know?
Right.
You know what?
Now, that's one thing I really like about the Panorama. You do have a lot of a lot of control and deep integration, and everything is at the touch of a button. And you don't have too many sub menus for you to figure what you need to do, and right out of the box is ready to go. So it's really improved my workflow. So I'm quite pleased with that. I would not be looking for another controller in a minute.
Nice, nice. All right,
Yeah.
what DAW are you mostly using it with?
Um, Mainly with Logic, 'cause that's my primary DAW. But when I got it, I also got Reason, and it was first integrated with Reason, and then later on they added Logic. I think they added Cubase, and I think Beatwig as well. But the Logic integration is really well done, and they're still developing it. So at some future updates, it would have deeper integration. But the way they've done it, it's more or less like working with a workstation, because I came from the background of workstations.
Yeah.
And having that level of integration where you don't have to run to your computer keyboard or mouse to do anything while you're doing the performance, but you're actually using a soft piece of software in your DAW. That for me is what sold it, and that's what I really like about it. And couple that with the Machine Studio, yeah, I don't have to look at the computer screen. I'm good.
Nice. Nice.
I'm quite pleased about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using the Bitwig with the Arturia Keylab 49, and they have custom mappings and stuff for that, and it integrates really well, and they do this kind of clever color scheme on it, which is quite nice. So I've really been liking how Bitwig maps out. I will say that. I don't like the pads on the Keylab 49. They're not sensitive enough for me at all. Like, I'm a finger drummer. These pads are more for triggering chords and events. So you hit them and don't use them for like dynamic, good times with your fingers. But the transport control is flawless. Nice chunky feel to it. They got that nice click to it. The knobs feel great. The keys actually felt a lot better than what I expected, because I know that they're very similar to the keys done on the Mini Brute, which are passable but didn't really impress. The keys, the key bed, the way it's laid together, it just feels a little bit tighter and nicer on the 49, and it's hard metal enclosure, and everything on it's actually really, really nice. So
yeah, that's the other thing I like about the Panorama, the key bed. I forgot to mention that. It's really, really good. It's lovely to play. It makes you want to play. That's another thing that I really like about it. All around, I'm quite happy with the Panorama P6. It's a good keyboard.
Excellent. What's next on the list, Mike?
Next will be the Korg ARP Odyssey.
Oh boy. Now,
okay.
So I want to ask Willie his thoughts on that first before we really dive in deep on that.
Hey man, it's a lot of mixed reviews on it. Some people are just happy it's back, the ARP, and then some people are like, Korg could have done way better than what they did. Quite frankly, until I put my hands on it, and I'm hoping to go to Guitar Center when it gets there and actually spend a little time with it. But for right now, I'll withhold my judgment of it. I really want to spend some time with it before I actually make any type of judgment call on it.
So there's been a lot of hubbub about the key bed being 14% smaller, or being quote unquote mini keys, but they're not full on mini keys. They're actually just slimmer, from what I'm understanding. I'm so torn about this, because the price point to me warrants me saying, you know what, at that price point, I'm going to spend the extra money and get the Ramona.
How much is that in US dollars?
I think it's $1,000. It's $1,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, dude, I'll spend an extra, $400 or $500 to get the Ramona. So the Ramona is probably gonna be somewhere between $500 and $800 more, so almost twice the price. But you're also dealing with something far more custom, and it's not going to be SMD. It's not going to be as mass produced, I should say. I shouldn't say that it's not going to be SMD, because I don't know for sure about the Ramona. I need Ramona to contact me and let me crack one open and keep it. I want one. I want the Odyssey. I thought the demos sounded fantastic. I thought it actually sounded really good. but I do not want to spend money on a mini version of that thing for that kind of price point.
Yeah.
Especially if the rumor of, what Behringer was doing, where Behringer is like, oh, we might come out with a full-size version with all the same functionality, plus MIDI, plus, full-size keys. It's like, well, then you start saying, well, Korg announced this a while ago, so then you have a moral conundrum there. But at the same time, you're like, my pockets have a conundrum, And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I can save half the price and I can still get, these other synths. Then you have to start taking a hard look. Plus, the other one comes with digital effects built in, and it's like, come on, man.
I honestly hope this thing sells, because I want Korg to remake the Op Quadra.
Oh, I was just about to go there with you. That's the thing is that if you follow the news that Korg released, they didn't just release it, as a Korg Odyssey, reissue. They rebuilt the brand of ARP. They rebuilt the website for ARP. Everything is back up there. And if you look at the way the website's laid out, it could quite easily have a Quadra on there, a 2600. If they listen, I've been heavily debating building. There is a thing out there called the TTSH, which is ARP 2600 redone, and you can build it yourself. If you build it yourself, you're going to be set back probably about somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500, and a whole lot of time, a whole lot of soldering, and probably a whole lot of head scratching. If Korg were to redo the 2600, yeah, how am I not going to get that? I'm going to get my Edgar Winter on so hard. Like, I would be in love with that. And the Quadra, come on, the ARP Quadra, yeah, those are the models that we want. Like, those are the things that. But I don't want them mini. I want them chunky. Like, let me grab. I want knobs that I have to grab on, like.
To be honest, for the Quadra, if the sound is authentic, they can make it out of cardboard. I don't give a shit.
Fair enough. Yeah, I do want something that doesn't feel like a toy. If I'm gonna be spending $1,500 on a synth, it better not feel like a toy. Like, my major drawback about the MS-20 Mini back here, and I said it at NAMM when they announced it, and I beelined right for it, and I put my hands on it, and the build quality is terrible. I still got one. I said that day, I got a lot of flack on YouTube about it. I said, the build quality is terrible. I felt like it didn't quite get me as far as sound-wise, but at the same time, I was on a loud floor too, so I didn't want to put too much emphasis on that. But the build quality is really bad on that thing.
Talking the MS-20 do-it-yourself kit plus step sequencer was announced.
Not just do-it-yourself kit, but MS-20M. So it's a whole new MS-20 module that's very slim, desktop module with volt per octave on it. So that means it will directly interface with Eurorack gear and and your Moog, well, your late model Moogs at least. Very cool. That had me really, really interested. But the price point I felt was wrong. I felt if essentially it's all SMD components, and it's the board is mass produced. That's the other thing, is that these things are build your own, but they're not. They are not kits. Like, if you come to my website and you see me building kits of synthesizers, that's a do-it-yourself kit. These things are, let's be honest, they're snapped together like Lego kits. These things are not even Lego. Legos take more work than these things do. These are just snapped together components. You're not doing any soldering. You're not doing any real work. You're just snap. So basically what it is Korg got too lazy to put this thing together itself, so they're pushing that work off onto you, but they're still pocketing the money. Like, a large factor of the draw of do-it-yourself stuff to me, like here is the hex inverter MIDI to CV that I'm going to be building next. a large part of the draw of this stuff is that you're actually building it and you have a sense of accomplishment. And if you're getting a sense of accomplishment from building an MS-20 kit, your self-esteem's got to be really low. Like, that's like a second grader can put that thing together. Come on. You know what I mean? Like,
there's only 1,000 of them made.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're getting these. So they're going to do it in limited quantities, and that's great. I don't, you know, you do whatever you want to do with that, but don't sit here and act like it being a do-it-yourself kit is in any way a good thing when you're charging price for the same price as the Odyssey. You know what I mean? Like, how much is the price for that module? It's like $1,000, isn't it?
$11.99.
$11.99?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can get an Odyssey completely put together for the price that you're going to pay for this thing? Come on, man. Like, the prices don't match up. They were able to do the SMD circuit board, which is all the same actual components in the MS-20 Mini, for what, $600? So you can't tell me that you know, that I'm actually making, you know, that it's that much higher in cost for them. Like, it's just not going to work. You're not going to convince me of that.
You paying for the limited edition. That's what that is. The cost is for the limited edition.
I guess, but that I don't know, man. It just smacks me the wrong way. I like, a limited edition of a mass-produced product is not a limited edition. I'm sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how limited is it really? I mean, I'll show you limited edition. Go buy an Animodule Eurorack VCO that was hand-built. That's a limited edition to me. You know what I mean? Don't tell me that these things that are mass-produced in a factory are limited edition. I don't want to buy that crap.
I'm just telling you what they're trying to sell you.
Now, that being said, you know, if the price point was lower, I'd snatch it up in a heartbeat. I think the product is fantastic. I just don't agree with the marketing structure of it. That's, you know, but it looks fantastic. Like, I love the fact that it has both hertz per volt and volt per octave on it. That's fantastic. Moving on.
Teenage Engineering P014.
Yes.
That little bass synth in the size of a calculator. It looks fun.
They have a few, don't they? Isn't it like it's like a series that they're doing, right?
Yes, I think there's also like a drum module. I think they announced the drum module somewhere around summer last year, but I never saw one. Are they released yet?
I think that they're doing a few different ones. They're called pocket operators. So there is. I'm on the site now. Here, let me share the screen, and I will show you what I'm talking about. So here we go. So here's these pocket operators. There's the factory. So they look like those old Nintendo Game & Watch or those old LCD Tiger games that you used to get, which I used to love those things. Only $59, which is crazy. It's crazy low price point, but I'm very interested to play. Yeah, so they have the factory, the sub, and what is this other one?
I think the drum.
The drum, which is the rhythm. Okay, so they have 3 of them. I'll tell you what. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to buy one, and I'll let you know about it. That's what's going to happen, because I'm going to end up having to get one of these. So they got their own little sequencers in them, and from what I've actually heard, I've talked to a couple people that have heard them, and they actually said they sound really good. How that's possible, I don't know. But Teenage Engineering, they're interesting people, and I want nothing more than to see them succeed anyway, because I like their whole style. They're very interesting people. The amount of updates that they provided for the OP1 is great, and I really hope that they come out with another product soon, because I'm liking what they're doing. Very, very different approach to music making. William, would you pick up something like that to use for sound design?
Nah.
Not at all?
Nah.
I would. I'll be messing with that drum and possibly the sub. Depends on how deep we can go with it, I guess, huh?
I would love to put that drum thing in a calculator housing. That would be so nice.
Yeah, I mean, the sub says multiple real synthesizer engines, including FM, subtracted synthesis, wavetable, physical modeling, and string. And 16 built-in effects. I mean, that's ridiculous. For $59?
Yeah.
The only thing more that I could ask is for it to have an audio input. You know? And the drum is actually synthesized drum sounds. It's not. It says it has real synthesized drum sounds and sampled drum sounds, both. So yeah, wait. Actually, you know what? I stand corrected. 3.5 millimeter audio in and out.
That's
So
nice.
that's what it says. I haven't seen an input port on them, but that's what it says. So.
They might
Oh,
have.
yeah, I do see it now. Hold on. Let me share my screen so that you guys can see that. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, it does have audio input and output. Right up here, up top.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's gonna happen in my setup. But there's no reason for it not to. What's next?
Right now, talking prices, the exact opposite. The Modal Modulus 002, which is, in my opinion, the synthesizer of the century.
Well, that's and that's what Roy was talking about earlier. So we kind of already touched on that one, but that's I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to be spending $5,000 on it, but I can't wait to see them do some more affordable products.
Yeah.
If that sucker was $3,000, I'd buy it. If it was $2,000, I'd buy two.
And this is real eye candy, in my opinion. This is how a perfect example for great product design and really thought through interface design. So you have a lot of dedicated knobs, but you also have a screen that shows you the waveforms, that shows you the filters. That's just great. That's really thought through.
I think that the fact that they're not skimping on any materials also, like that they're really trying to provide something that, you know, is something that'll last and be very interesting to people for time to come. That's what gets me more. But when you start getting into that price range, oh, I can think of so many other things that I would buy, like that. Like I could have multiple other items. So I don't believe it's marketed for me, but it's at the same time it makes me want to make more money.
Right.
I think
Go ahead.
I think the Modulus is the beat, end all, master, whatever synth. That synth that once you've got it, there's not much out there synthesizer can do that. You cannot find a morpho way within that synth to create that. So I think that's probably what they're aiming for, is the ultimate synth in one that doesn't get dated because it's got an Ethernet port at the back. I mean these guys thought of everything. Imagine you got a synth with an Ethernet port at the back of it. You just hook it up to the internet, share, get new patches. The thing can host 10,000 patches. I've never heard of a synth that can host 10,000 patches. Do you know what I mean? It's just, yes, it's an amazing piece of product. Really well thought of. I'm with you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm very interested in it, but I'm really more interested to see that where it's going to be going. You know.
Right.
That's what I really.
I think the community would probably. I mean, yeah, the community will probably take it to places that the manufacturers ain't even thought of. But it's got to be accessible for that to happen. At that price point, I'm afraid it's not.
So what's next on the list?
Now we need to bridge the gap over to software, and I'm going to do this with Waldorf, which announced one thing is their first Eurorack module, the NW1, which includes the waveforms of the NAMM iPad synth, which is now also becoming available for the desktop as the VST, AU, and RTAS plugin. And yeah, I think that's great news. NAMM is, in my opinion, still the best synthesizer or best sounding synthesizer on the iPad. And,
I totally agree. Nave is easily my favorite iPad synth. It is fantastic. I use it all the time. I love creating patches with it. I love the synthesis engine for the speech synthesis engine in it. This module I will own no matter what. Like, you know, it's gonna happen. I love wavetable synthesis, especially when you run wavetables through analog oscillator or analog filters, excuse me. I think it just makes wavetables sound so awesome. So that's happening. I already have 4 wavetable oscillators in my Eurorack. I don't care. I'm getting this as well. The fact that it has the Nave speech engine in it alone is enough for me. The fact that you can change audio inputs into it, and you can use a USB port to type things into it, and just honestly, the design aesthetic alone is just gorgeous looking. So a few people were a little concerned about the lack of CV input because they're using 3-way toggle switches for some of the functionality. I don't really think that it's that big of a deal. It'd be nice if there was a little bit more CV on it, but I like the fact that it has a really clean layout. And I like that I'm kind of I don't really like it when modules put their jacks all over the panel, like in between knobs, because then like you're trying to turn a knob and you're hitting a cable or whatever. The layout on this is actually pretty sharp. You know, you got your cables all going down one side, and then you have one other cable off to the right. So the front panel is very clean and easy to maneuver on. So I'll be hopefully getting one in for review. I'm really hoping to get one in for review. If not, I'll have to purchase one. But gorgeous. So that's my thought on that. And also, Nave is a VST. Very excited about that because, like I said, I use it all the time. So
I saw a demonstration of the beta version on a German music YouTube channel, and the layout is actually really clever, ported from the iPad. So you now don't have the flip pages. You have all the important things on one page, and you have different tabs to go through for the step sequencer, for the modulation, for the speech engine, stuff like that. And it lets you also import your own wavetables and stuff like that. So this is really cool.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the iPad version is that you can really get into the wavetables and create your own and do all kinds of fun things. So
yes, but of course on the desktop version it's much easier to import the wavetables. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely getting that. I mean, that's I can't wait. I really can't.
And another big plus they mentioned, because they first developed it for the iPad, it really needs low CPU, because they had to deal with the slimmed down hardware in the tablet, so the PC version won't take much more resources.
Yeah, which is really cool too, because like I mean, honestly, the filter on it sounds good. Like that's usually where a lot of the DSP goes to on these things is their filters, and the Nave filter actually sounds good. Like it's for what it is, I enjoy it. I actually use Nave more than I use like Animodule. What is it? Animoog. I like it more than that, which that's another really high one on my list. But I'll take Nave over that. You know, so. What about you guys? Was there anything from Waldorf that really kind of struck your interest?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll be getting that Euro module also.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of top on
Make
the
that
list
+1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It looks really interesting.
Yeah, the thing about that is that it seems like it's also at a price point that's not too ugly either. And here's Nave. I'm showing it on my screen. Let me pull that up. So yeah, and the graphical layout of Nave is just so gorgeous too. I mean, they really hit the nail on the head with that for me. Like that's iOS synthesis done right. So it's not too outlandish, but at the same time, it's still purdy, you know? Anything else on the list?
Um, Omnisphere 2 was announced.
Omnisphere 2. Oh, goodness.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Got to give me one of these.
Yeah, I'm a huge Omnisphere fan, and the number one thing that I've always said was, like, let me put my own sound sources in it. As a sound designer, that's what I want. Let me put my own sound sources in. Finally, they let us do it. So, and the sheer size of the library and the fact that they're expanding the FM, they're expanding the effects. I mean, it looks phenomenal. So that's really going to be great. I mean, that's got to be like in the next couple of years, that's got to be like ranked as like one of the best-selling VSTs ever. Like,
Yeah.
That's the thing with Spectrasonics. The content they provide is always top-notch. I mean, think about Trillion. You know, you get like, what is it, 40 gigabytes of bases. That's the only thing you need to buy for your whole life to have nice.
and on top of that, not only are you getting 40 gigs of that sound content, but this seems to be a misconception of people who don't really understand Omnisphere and what it is. But a lot of people were, back when it first came out, they were complaining that it was CPU heavy and this and that, which, in my opinion, it really wasn't that bad, and it's still not that bad. But a lot of people were saying, oh, you need tons of RAM to run it. You really don't. Like, the beauty of Omnisphere is that they're actually not using a crap ton of samples for each patch. They're actually very minimal, and using very small samples in them, and they're so the fact that each patch usually has fairly small, like the sound source files themselves are actually really small. The fact that you have 40 gigs of content tells you just how many they actually have in there. I mean, there's so much content, so much variety. And I believe Eric Persing was, he used to do sound design for Roland, I believe. So he was involved in a lot of the JV stuff. And I would guesstimate that that's how he became so efficient with, the usage of these sound sources and the size of these files, because honestly, you can hear pitching in a lot of things, and that's kind of endearing in a way on a lot of the sound sources, but especially when you start using the granular along with it, and like the stuff that like Diego Stacco did on it, and the other sound designers, I mean, the sound quality of Omnisphere is what sells me every time, Willie, let me ask you, as a fellow sound designer, how excited did it make you to see that we can now add our own sound sources?
Considering that maybe a week before it was announced, I actually emailed Spectrasonic to see if I could get an additional license to use their WAV files in sound design, and I was turned down. They said it's a negative. You can't do that. So anybody that's trying to use their waveforms in any sample packs, no. Read the EULA. You can't do it. Mm-hmm. So now that we can put our own stuff in there, as soon as I get my hands on it, I will be working on a sound pack.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that I've been working on a Omnisphere sound pack for a while, and I've got a huge library of patches ready to go, but I've been waiting because I had a feeling that it was on its way, and I really didn't want to release it if Omni 2 was on its way and going to allow me to add sound sources. So now, I don't want to release it until I get Omni 2 and can add more to it. Like the positive thing for the consumer is going to be that they're going to get a huge expansion library for Omni 2, because I know that William and I are most likely going to be teamed up on that one. So
the Selena Ensemble, which is an effect that they just added, I can't wait to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh
You know, I
god.
like making them choir patches.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
really
that's
can't
your
wait for
thing.
that. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely make use of that.
So the worst part of that announcement, though, I don't know if you guys caught this, is that it's not going to be released until spring.
Yeah.
So that hurt. That hurt hard because like I'm sitting here looking at it like, okay, what do I got to do to get on a beta list? What do I got to do to this? I don't care what I got to do. What do you want me to do? Go to your house, cook you breakfast? Let me know. So it's going to happen. Like I got to get in there. But very excited about that. That was for me. That was the number one software announcement out of anything. Which and the thing is that a lot of people, you know, myself included, were kind of expecting it. Like we knew that they had been quiet about it for a while. Like we were waiting on it and expecting it. Still the biggest news for me. You got any other software news, Mike?
No.
No
The
other
last
software
thing.
really.
Oh, there were a lot of updates. So Logic 10.1 had a lot of cool new features. But honestly, I don't know any details about it because I'm not a Logic user. But what about you guys?
Um. I mean, I like the fact that Steven Slate is doing this new. He's got this basically like a rental program where you can pay $19.99 a month and you get every single plugin that he has.
Hmm.
And then if you do it all the months of the year, you get, I think it's like a $200 coupon back, um, which is pretty darn nice. I think that's something that really interests me because I don't have a huge use for his plugins outright, but at the same time I really like them, so I wouldn't buy them straight away. But if I want to use them for a month on a specific project, heck yeah, I'll do that. You know, so that's not bad. What do you guys think about this whole rent to own transaction thing that's going on in the music industry right now? Because it really, I mean, what was it in the photo world? It was happening with Photoshop, and now you're starting to see it with this stuff. I would be surprised if somebody like Apple didn't do this, you know, with their products soon as well, you know, and doll products, and you know.
Well, in my opinion, the rental ship for Photoshop or the whole Adobe Creative Cloud thing, it's horrible. It's the worst I can think of because especially on Adobe, you pay this as long as you use it, and the day you stop paying it, you have nothing. You don't have a software you can
Yeah.
use to continue working on. It's just gone. So you literally pay for a thing that you don't have. So when I go back and think about when I bought a Creative Suite 6, then I paid maybe I don't know $800 or as a edu price, and but after a few years, I could still use it. So now I pay a lot of money each month, and the day I decide I don't want to pay it anymore, I have nothing left to work with. And that's the if this comes to the music world, well, I'm not happy.
Well,
So
at
I'm
the
like,
same time, you still have the option to buy them outright, though.
no.
No, the Steven Slate stuff you do.
Oh yeah, that's a cool option. So if you rent them and one day they say, okay, this is now yours, you pay it off, that's fine. But not the rental system like Adobe does it.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is like you can buy it outright or you can rent it. And if you rent it for the entire year, you get a coupon which you could use back to purchase it. So it's kind of like rent to own in a way.
Yeah.
But of course, like I mean, if you were to buy all of Steven Slate's stuff, you'd be putting out a crap ton of money. But if let's say you're in a recording session and you need it for that session, that's really good. Like I don't really have a great need for his tape plugin, but I like it. I have reel to reel, but let's say I didn't want to set up my tape and I wanted to use that one instead, then I can certainly just pay $20 and boom, I'm good to go. I think that's a whole lot better than paying 200. And anything that goes to stem piracy, I am for. And I personally feel like at a $20 price point, it helps a little bit, you know. I think people who are going to pirate are still going to pirate, but I think it helps with that a little bit. You know, it helps kind of get, you know, $20 versus $250 is a big price gap, you know.
Yeah.
So let me just I'm just gonna riddle off a couple of small things that I found that I thought were interesting, and then we'll close out the show. But so this is cool. This is DeckSaver. So DeckSaver is now, they used to do a lot of things like keyboard trays, machine controllers, like small flat things for the most part. But now they're starting to support synths, which I think is great because my synths do not always get covered up as they should. So I'll probably invest in some DeckSavers because my studio can get dusty. So I like that idea. Another thing that I saw here is the Cuneo, or not Cuneo, but what is it? Keith McMillan Instruments. They've released a mixer that is based on like the Cuneo kind of control service. This you know, pressure sensitive and location sensitive technology, and it's like an interface and a mixer. Like, I'm not super into it, but it's kind of interesting. Novation Launchpad Pro. What's cool about that is just the fact that it has velocity sensitivity to me. That's the #1 aspect of it for me.
And it comes with the RGB LEDs now.
Yeah, and RGB LEDs, which is nice. Now the current ones are only like a few colors, right?
Yeah, they had 3 colors only.
Yeah, and now they have full RGB spectrum, which is nice. So that's cool, and it looks like it's built really well. The BeatStep Pro is very interesting to me. At the price point, it's a very affordable step sequencer. I love my BeatStep. I use it all the time. I actually currently have it completely mapped out to the hidden features on my Sub 37. The cool thing about this new BeatStep, more than the fact that it does multiple channels, is the fact that it has clock input. So for anybody using a modular synth, you can run your clock into it to control how fast it's going, and that gets really, really fun. So, and that was like the main thing that was missing on the current BeatStep that kind of hurt it, was that you couldn't run clock into it. I use my BeatStep a lot with my software, so I'll control my software with a hardware step sequencer, and that's just a blast. So I'm excited about that. The M Audio stuff didn't, you know, the Code series didn't really do it for me at all. I really like just no. And then the Roland Aria MX1 got me very excited. The downside is that it only has 6 inputs, but I don't know if you guys saw this. You can step sequence effects on it. You can step sequence your movements with it. I did not see whether or not you could step sequence the volume levels. I'm hoping that you can, but if you can step sequence like that, it's kind of like a really pared down, easier to use Yamaha OX1 or whatever it was, the digital mixers. So that's really cool. Like that actually that really intrigued me for like a live show. Like 6 inputs, I can get by with that for a live show. Like I can probably chain a couple and then.
But you can hook all of your Aura through USB, so you don't have to use the inputs for any of the Aura gear.
Yeah, but
you know, in through USB.
That's all well and good, but I'm not really buying any of the Aura gear.
But I'm sitting here with 3 pieces of the Aura gear, so I'm really looking at that mixer very hard.
That's because you're silly.
Whatever, man. Hey, I'm gonna tell you, man. I'm still on the System 1 and the TR8 and the VT3. I still think the Aura gear is nice, man.
So you got rid of the 303 clone though, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big 303 guy.
Yeah,
it didn't do it.
Yeah, but the the TR8, like, I'm kind of sort of interested in. But I'll wait until they drop in price because I guarantee you they lose their value quick. So I'll grab it when it's dirt cheap. But yeah, I really like the idea that they can do that. I wish that they had optical on it so that you could just run 8 channels of optical into it and do it that way. That would have been really cool. But still a novel idea, a novel approach to something that I haven't seen before, like a step sequencer on a mixer. Not many people are doing something like that, so that's pretty cool. The next one was the new interface. Here it is, the Arturia Audio Fuse interface. Now, I'm not going to pass judgment on this until I put hands on it and actually use it, so I'm going to try and get a review model of this. The way they were talking about it before release, I expected something to be a little bit more sleek than this. And it kind of sounded like they were almost talking like it was going to be wireless and this and that. It just didn't really. I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, but it didn't jump out to me. Did it jump out to any of you guys?
No.
No. I like the idea, but nah, nothing special.
So yeah, I'm gonna try and get a review model, and maybe that'll change my mind. So we'll see what happens with that. The M Audio Delta Bolt, that honestly did not interest me at all. 12-channel audio interface, so that's kind of cool, but I mean it's decent quality. It looks like it's going to be a good sound quality, but when I'm spending good money on an interface, like I'm personally going to go for something with a little bit more brand recognition, as we talked about on previous shows. So that didn't do it for me. The Focusrite Claret range looks cool.
Yes, especially for the price point.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
For the price point, this looks like something to me like the 8 pre with 18 inputs and 20 out. 4 pre, 18 ins, 8 out. Like the number of sheer in and outs on this, that's impressive. I'm interested in it. I want to hear it. I want to hear. I mean, I've heard some of their other converters, and they don't blow me away, but they don't hurt my ears by any means either. So, and their preamps never offended me either. Like I don't have anything against how they sound. So to me, it's like, I could definitely see that as being a worthwhile solution. You can get the 8 pre X, like the top of the line version of them, for $1,200, right? And that's got 18 inputs, 28 outputs. That's a crap ton of outputs, So.
And it's analog outputs, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, I got 20 outputs on my 8920 too, but there are only 8 outputs and 12 digital outputs with ADAT and SPDIF and whatnot. So
and it's sub 1 millisecond latency.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Yeah. So for people who are doing a lot of live tracking and also people that are just like, really need that fast throughput, I mean, that's impressive to say the least. The 4 pre with the 18 is €799. So, I mean, and that was like, I think 18 in, like 20 out. That's crazy. So I'm interested in that, and I'm gonna be taking a hard look at that because I'm still in the market for some more interfaces. So I'm gonna want to demo that against the Motu 1248 and the Apollo. So
another real interesting interface that came out but didn't catch a lot of attention is the Zoom TAC8. It's also a Thunderbolt rack-mountable audio interface with 18 in and 20 outputs. It looks really, really good. And it also has a really nice and flexible software that comes with it for the routing. It looks just... That's a little downside on the Focusrite stuff, is their mixer software is kind of confusing and complicated.
Now that's something that gets into, like, I've never really been a fan of how their stuff sounded, but I'm not, I judge everything by ear. So, like, just because in the past I wasn't really big on it doesn't mean that their new stuff can't sound fantastic. So I have to check that out too. 18 in, 20 out, very cool.
Yeah, it's like the same setup like the Focusrite, but do they have a picture of the mixing software that comes with it? because that console looks really nice. You have there's a built-in reverb section that you can route to the inputs. It looks really good.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll close out the show, and very interesting stuff on that. Very interested to demo some of these new interfaces and demo some of the new synths. And yeah, with that, I'll pass it off to Mike to close out.
All right, guys, was a good show. Check out patbangers.com. New stuff is coming soon. New articles, new reviews, new tutorials, like usual. Peace out.
And Roy?
Yeah, it's been a good one. It's been a very interesting one. Another year for NAMM. Some interesting products, but yeah, check me out on soundcloud.com/darkjoint.
Okay.
And I'll be seeing you guys soon.
And Willie?
Big year coming up for the Machine Warehouse. We have a lot of nice products about to be ready for release. New contact instruments is being developed, so stay tuned. And it might be a sale running in February. You heard it here first.
Yeah. That's that insider info. So, as always, and you know, I'm working with Machine Warehouse now as well, and we've got so much content coming. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I'm gonna say a couple of quick things. I will say, if you know anybody looking for vintage, new old stock API 440-16 faders for your console, let me know, because I've got 4 of them, and these are in bag, sexy. So these are seriously like the cream of the crop 1970s faders. So hit me up for that. The end of the Synth DIY project series is coming extremely soon, so check out fluxwithit.com and you can build one of these things for about $100, which is pretty awesome. And next up, I'm building I got stuff happening. Next up, I'm building hex inverter MIDI to CV, so check that out. And I have a video coming out very shortly on the Neutron Sound Oregon Accumulator complex wavetable oscillator. So if you're into modular synths, stop by fluxwithit.com and check that out. Peace!
Liz.